You're listening to Stretch Unscripted,
the podcast where we stretch your mind,
flex your curiosity,
and keep it completely unscripted.
We'd like to thank our sponsors, Intelligent Community Initiative, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, and Catalyst Co-working.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Stretched Unscripted. My name is Zora Szabó, and I will be your host today. And today I am joined by Rick Dickson, who is the Interim President of the University of Tulsa. So welcome.
Thank you.
So I want to start this out by doing like a little icebreaker rapid fire round just to like ease the mood. So my first question is, what is your favorite TU tradition?
Oh, geez. Ones that I created or participated?
Anything, whatever you want.
So I've been accused of creating some, but I'll go with the traditional. I think bonfire, for me, the homecoming bonfire is I think it's one of the things we do exceptionally well, you know, in terms of tapping into all our different constituents, from alums to people from Tulsa to students. It's just the coming together of all that, I think, is exciting to see, and the joy and festivity that come along with that.
So you attended TU.
I did.
You ever participate in like building the bonfire or just watching it?
You know, I've still got a few months in this role, so I don't need to incriminate myself too deeply, but yeah, not directly. I know as being a student athlete, you know, in a number of the years, I think like what's happened recently, we may have had one of my 4 years canceled, but participating as a member of the football team, attending the bonfire, which was fun, and you know, just to kind of be poked fun and teased by your classmates and so forth, and but it was fun.
Well, that's good. So what is one word that you would use to describe the University of Tulsa? One
word. Well, there's a lot of one words. I think of uniqueness. I think of accomplishment. I think of really the one that I think resonates the most for me, or is most personal to me, is welcoming.
Okay. I remember like when I first moved onto campus my freshman year, just driving into the U, all the ambassadors, all the student orientation leaders, just like welcoming everybody. So I completely agree with that. Yeah,
it's a great dynamic, you know, that I think's symptomatic of TU, the culture, you know, the place, the DNA of it is it's just open arms and embracement of what we are, you know, and having young people and stakeholders from everywhere. That's, you know, having grown up locally, regionally in the area, to get exposed to that for the first time was such a eye-opening and, in hindsight, beneficial experience. Really shaped kind of my outlook and quest to continue to seek that type of dynamic of where you're meeting people from everywhere. And I got to experience that for the first time at TU.
I know, especially like a lot of people who come, like most of them might not have backgrounds with different cultures, different ideas, and just like having a space that you can easily just like learn new things and like engage with other people is really cool.
And we do, right, from each other. That's what I loved about it, because I'm more of a connector type person, and so learning from my classmates and friends and teammates and faculty that were from everywhere in different backgrounds and cultures. It's completely reorientated me and directed me in a lifelong pursuit of that.
So now that you're in, or you've had a lot of leadership positions, what is something that you would say kind of describes your leadership style?
Unique. I think, you know, above all, I never really shied from the role of being first, and I learned quickly that didn't mean most important or even most valuable, but maybe the first to take that first step and try to influence others. But I think above all, my goal throughout that time was really to be of service, to be someone that could uplift and help elevate others, because I've learned, and maybe that was through sport, that you're only as good as your teammates around you. And so having that kind of outlook and mindset seemed for me to transition well in other arenas as well.
So you were an athletic director. So how is that different from being the interim president of a university, like leadership-wise?
There are a lot of similarities, actually. It's still leadership, right? It's still serving stakeholders and constituents, still being that service leader, servant leader. And I would say the main difference is it's a much broader focus. Your stakeholders are much broader, whereas before there's the element of the outward facing, the public, the media. That's still the case, in this role as well. The constituents piece, I went from primarily being responsible for maybe 600 people and staff and student athletes to 4,000 people. And so, and as well as our alums, the community, and those things. So it's just expanding kind of that reach.
So what does that opportunity mean to you? Because I know it's not every day that everyone just gets the opportunity to just step into the role of being interim president.
Zora, and because you're a TU student, I'm only going to share this with you, and hopefully not tens of thousands of others.
No, it's just
my greatest concern coming back was that in fact, I even asked the chair of our board before they asked me to accept this was, are you sure somebody has reviewed my discipline record when I was here as a student? Because my freshman year, somewhere, and I can't say I was influenced, I got to take sole responsibility, I really thought that the security scooters that were positioned different places around campus were meant for my use. Oh. And at some point, I was informed and corrected about that. And so I had to spend a semester on probation, but I wanted to make sure, I didn't want one of these political witch hunts after the fact that Rick had been on probation for a semester, but for fairly innocuous, innocent reasons, but I wanted to be forthcoming.
I hope you had fun, at least on the scooters.
Oh, yeah, it was fun. I would do it again.
Good. At least I know that. But I know especially a lot of the athletes, they love the little Lime scooters we have on campus, so hopefully that kind of takes away anything from borrowing things that aren't supposed to be used.
I know. You guys got your own stand-up scooters now, right?
Oh, yeah. No, we have them everywhere. Plus, we have the little robots going around campus to deliver food. Yeah. All the nice amenities now.
There's a lot of technology to be aware of.
Oh, yeah, especially nowadays. So what makes the University of Tulsa unique compared to other private universities?
Well, one, the name. Not if I think of, the Rice in Houston, the Tulane in New Orleans, the Vanderbilt in Nashville, is that we actually represent the name of our city. And I think that's synonymous with our history, our journey, right, is that we were created as the showcase university for this city in this region. And so that, I think you start with that. Some of the other things that that we've mentioned and experienced together, right, has been for the kind of reputation and scope of what the university has developed over 140 years. I would tell you the size, I think, is unique. I learned this when I left Tulsa after my first tenure as athletic director, that the reputation was stellar, but the perception was much different. They thought we were a large urban university, like a Cincinnati, like a Memphis, schools like that, and were surprised to learn that we were private and around 4,000 students. I think that's surprising, but it also, I think, is endearing in that it helps kind of create that intimacy that we've all experienced through that time. So I think those are the on the surface level, the most unique things.
Well, piggybacking off of that, I came from Texas, so I was used to all the big state schools, even the private schools like Baylor. Those were massive.
Right.
So again, I completely agree. When I came here, I was oh, this is so much smaller. You have the better class sizes, the better interactions with your professors. Not at all what I originally would have assumed, especially prior to coming on a tour. But I completely loved it. Amazing opportunity. So bouncing from that, how do you hope that UTulsa has an impact on their students after experiencing all the opportunities that the university brings and gives them?
Well, one of the things we're proud of, Zora, I know you and others are counting on this, but I think one of the areas we perform most remarkably is both the support and nurturing along the way. The personal touch piece, I think, is our most prominent part of our DNA that we take pride in and are successful in. And they also, as you'll learn, that doesn't stop after your 4-year undergrad, whether that's placement into the industry, the track, the journey that you begin. We're very successful in the placement aspect of this. And then the connection piece, making sure that once you've transitioned through and completed this experience, that there's still that connection. I'm kind of case in point, right? Is that bringing me back 5 years ago after I'd actually completed a career and kind of restarted a second and third career. Is a good example. It's probably an extreme example, but a good example. I don't think it's as uncommon as people might think.
So how do you see University of Tulsa being an anchor for the city? Because I know you mentioned, again, just with the name, we're representing Tulsa. So how else do we anchor the city to the school?
Well, I think we've been recognized as leaders, in a lot of different arenas. Whether that's the energy side of this, the cybersecurity now, obviously in the traditional areas of business and our law school. I'm really proud going around the state this past year and meeting, gone into the home headquarters of all of the tribal nations in the state, and which for a lot of us, and I probably like a lot of Tulsans and even some TU alums, knew we had an affiliation, but learning more about that history, that we were actually founded as a Presbyterian school for Indian girls that later became Kendall College and the University of Tulsa. And so the fact that we have the only law school that's housed on tribal land in the country, things of that are indigenous to us where we are, I think that's a great example of reflecting and being a kind of a crown jewel and showcase of our region, our area, our heritage, all those things. And then, of course, in all the different, not all, but focused areas of industry, both in the area, but also in the region, has been important. And TU's got a great history of that. And I've seen, even being away from Tulsa, good examples of that in a number of different industries. Last night was a wonderful example. Is Molly O'Brien, an Academy Award filmmaker that was on campus, and I got to introduce, as I introduced her to the crowd, saying, this is the first and only presidential series I get to host, and so I was really proud to have somebody of that level of accomplishment and magnitude come to Tulsa. Her father is obviously was a renowned author and a TU professor throughout his career, and so just having that kind of bandwidth and capability, I think, is a great example of where TU is kind of the conduit that shines a bright light, not only locally but regionally and nationally.
Well, you just touched on my next question already, because I was going to ask, how does TU position itself nationally? Because I know it's hard to compete with other schools. So how does that work exactly from your standpoint?
Well, I think in a number of areas, we've distinguished ourselves with a lot of nationally and even globally ranked programs, degree tracks, from our engineering, from our what's happening. In fact, my first week on campus, I was visited by representatives of 3 federal agencies: FBI, Secret Service, and CIA, and solely, knocked on my door to emphasize to me how important Professor Sajit Sonoy and his program in cybersecurity was to the national security of our country. Something I was totally unaware of, and partly due to the nature of the focus, it flies under the radar by design. But the fact just to learn that about ourselves is something that wasn't that well known to myself, was a fresh example of that, and then things like petroleum engineering and our Indian law and other areas like that stand out uniquely, I think is what, we're representative in a number of areas, but I think those are just an example of some of the unique areas that we stand out.
So I actually knew exactly about all the CIA, FBI
You
programming.
did?
Yes. So my dad actually attended TU for his master's in cybersecurity, and he
Yes,
actually
you
got
did.
the opportunity to actually work with them, and that kind of made him go in the path that he went into, computer science, cybersecurity, working alongside them for a couple of years before becoming a professor. So I know it's not supposed to be publicized, because again, that's the whole point of it. But I know it's very rare for universities to give their students that opportunity, because it's hard to gain those connections between divisions. But
once I had been made aware that we, by these representatives, so I set up a meeting, and Professor Sonoy brought over a group of his graduate students, and they put on a exhibition and a display that was remarkable, because it actually highlighted and showcased a number of the worldwide events that they'd been frontline participants in solving and resolving, that had huge impact on not only national but global security. And just to think that 21, 22-year-olds were right at the front line of that type of that level of importance and significance right on our campus, and not even be aware of that. It was an insightful but illuminating day for me, to realize, wow, that's above and beyond.
So pivoting away from that, I want to touch back on your time as being a student athlete. So for those that don't know, I want you to touch on what sport did you play, and what kind of contributed to shaping who you are today?
Well, that's a lot. I'll try to be succinct in that. So I played football, one season of baseball when we had baseball, and but football all 4 years. That's the scholarship I was on. I was a defensive back, and so as I like to tease my teammates, is if you played a position where you had to stand up and your hand wasn't on the ground, you had to be an elite athlete. So that was always my marketing slogan that I used, is I'm in that category. So, but fortunate to actually play with, under remarkable coaches, F.A. Dry, who was our head coach and athletic director at the time, that, we have the F.A. Dry Performance Center on campus, and was a great leader, a great role model for so many of us. And then, of course, our teammates. We had a remarkable group, probably one of maybe the single highest class of number of draftees. We had 9 from our class drafted, which into the NFL, which is, I believe, the highest mark ever at TU. So
I did not know that.
Successful teams, but even better people. That's the thing. Looking back, we have an NFL Hall of Famer, my roommate, Steve Largent, that also later became a congressman. Just people that distinguish themselves, and I think that's one of the things collectively we're all most proud of, is that that sport. That's just something we did, But TU helped shape who we are, and so that's the common thread that still exists all these years later. So,
what does the role of athletics or just sports play at the University of Tulsa?
That's always it's a good question, number one. Number two, it's becoming more and more challenging today, but a good challenge. It's so, going back to the history part, one of the reasons Kendall College, I learned in this last go-round in this role, is one of the reasons that Kendall College sought to make the move from Muskogee to the city of Tulsa was because in that era, the best way to market your athletic program, your university, was to have a football team. And they didn't feel like that the region, the location they were in, was conducive. So they picked the city of Tulsa for that reason. And that's when we became the University of Tulsa. So the fact that it's right from the beginning, been part of our history and DNA, and it's part of the reason actually that I came back. I know 5 years ago there was some question whether we could continue with the way that college athletics has evolved and continuing to evolve, still compete at the highest level, if that was feasible. And so having had experience at that with kind of preserving a program at Tulane and then resurrecting one after the hurricane, knew that there were a number of other elements and aspects that athletics contributed to university, right? So we all know about the spirit, the esprit de corps piece of it, how important that is. And I would tell you that I still believe strongly that still exists today. Mm-hmm. One is because we historically, and even today, as you're an example of, we still attract remarkable, true student athletes. Young people that are here knowing that it's not a matter of if, but when sport will end. And they're here and they're serious students and they're seriously, here to develop and accomplish a degree track and a journey, that allows them to better their lives and communities and all those things. So the fact I think that TU operates with that kind of a model, and we always have, is really such an ingrained part of the DNA. It's also a connectivity part. It's the most forward-facing and easily connecting part of the university for people in the area, in the region, to interact and connect with TU through the different events and activities. And so all those reasons, I think for all those elements, it's still a huge aspect of what the university's mission is, what we do, how we stay connected and grounded, how we stay in touch with our alums, how we attract students, and how we create the kind of full-rounded, full experience environment for the students that we have now.
So you probably had a bunch of people throughout your life that have been good motivators or inspirational individuals. Is there anyone that stuck out to you throughout the years that has helped shape who you are?
Well, I mean, it's a huge number, actually. A lot of it stems back to my parents. I had a father that was a Choctaw Indian descent, an Irish mother that we referred to as the camp director, because everybody in our community, I can remember telling my mom at an early age of 9 years old, after staying all night that got to the age where you got to stay over at a friend's and coming home and say, Mom, you really don't have to be that nice to my friends. Their moms aren't that nice to me. But that's the type of person and home that we grew up in. We had a number of young people and primarily through her role in the church, the Catholic Church we grew up in, and just a number, I think through the years, a number of young people that lived with our family for whatever reasons that family support or circumstances allowed, that they really didn't have a solid or stable environment to live in. And a lot of them were of very diverse ethnicities, backgrounds, everything, and that helped shape all of our outlooks, on how we've interacted with people, how we viewed people, the value that people bring, all those things. So I got to start, obviously, with her. And then throughout, there's been some people. I know a couple I think of this recently because of some events I'm involved in. There's two young men in particular. One of them's named Steve Gleason. There's actually a movie called Gleason. Okay. He was a young man that was a student athlete under me at Washington State, later became a player for the New Orleans Saints. Oh, wow. The only statue that exists at the Superdome is a statue of Steve Gleason blocking a punt when they reopened the dome after Hurricane Katrina, but not for those reasons. Later on, as he worked under me as a graduate assistant at Tulane, he discovered he had contracted ALS. Oh, wow. And so his battle over the last 15 years, he's raised almost $100 million, this organization, Team Gleason. The mantra is no white flags, never giving up, and primarily for technology, for otherworldly experiments or experiences. Some of the examples of sending ALS patients to Machu Picchu and doing things they'd never imagined they could ever do. To see how he parlayed, a disastrous occurrence in his life into such a positive outcome for thousands of others. The other young man, and it ties back into Tulsa, I think it was in 2012, and at a game with Tulane and Tulsa, we had a young man, Devin Walker, who unfortunately was injured right before the end of the half. Those who were there will still remember it. I was the AD at Tulane, rushed to the field, and over a 30-minute period, trainers and doctors from the University of Tulsa resuscitated him because he had severed his spine and was faced with loss of life right on the spot. And over 30 minutes, they were able to resuscitate him. And then everything, the outpouring of support and care that came out of that from everywhere, but nowhere more so than the city of Tulsa. Tulsa rallied behind this young man. I know we stayed here for 2 weeks through his surgery. Bill Warren and the St. Francis group went above and beyond in his care for him, his family, and continued to after. And he, too, had used that adversity, still alive today, was able to complete his degree as a quadriplegic at Tulane University. He, too, was in pre-med, but finished in cell and molecular biology, and then was able to go to work for the Tulane Brain Institute to do research. So has been able to overcome, but also kind of parlay that experience into a positive impact for others. And just having that connection, that experience with those two young men is something that left an impression that I'll, have kept with me closely, and it shaped, for me, every interaction I had with young people from that point forward. Is that their safety and well-being has always been right at the front for me in any instance. I know and pride myself in the fact that, and it's not a pat on the back, it's more of I'm living up to my responsibility, is that whether it's a snowstorm like we did a couple of weeks ago, and Brenda put together my little overnight pack because I stayed on campus 2 nights on the couch and worked with our facilities people to make sure we had power, heat, and food for 4,000 students. That's just what's expected. And I tell you, those hardships that those young men faced, how they faced it, influenced and played into me and my outlook on my role in what I've always done.
Well, from all of us from the University of Tulsa, both faculty, staff, and students, we'd love to have you, and we just want to thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Just hearing what you do behind the scenes that we aren't aware of is just really amazing. So one last note before we conclude this episode. What is one inspirational or motivational thing you would say to a student that wants to attend the University of Tulsa?
Well, a couple of things. The first thing is, to come in. I knew coming in here at the University of Tulsa, which I didn't really know that much about, even though I'd grown up in the region. I think that's often the case, right? And such a different environment that I stepped into once I crossed 11th Street. I had no idea there was some place that accomplished and that far-reaching, that diverse, and that hands-on. And all those things were great traits and a great environment for me to fit into and become who I was going to become. And so that environment and the people involved during those times and since, have had such a profound influence. I would just say to young people is that, come in with an open mind and open heart. You're going to experience things and people you've never dreamed of that you'd ever be in that position, and be open to that, be receptive to that, because that's the kind of special sauce part of TU. And even as you mentioned in your own, it was not, even though you'd seen it and gotten a glimpse of it, then experiencing it's a whole different thing. And so I think being open to that and receptive to that is, it's going to be the opportunity of a lifetime. And just, my mantra that I kind of kept throughout, both started at TU is, didn't know how I'd do, didn't know how I'd fare, with this type of environment, this type of challenges, whether it was in the classroom or athletics, wherever. But I came in, and the two things I remember was from my mom. Said, "Look, you've always been fearless. Now just add relentless. Don't ever back up. Don't ever look back. Just keep moving ahead, step by step, and you'll be fine." And so I think fearless and relentless for me were good attributes. And I would tell young people, be open, be receptive, and be embracing of everything that's in front of you.
Well, thank you so much for coming out
Thank
and
you,
joining
Zora.
us today.
I'm honored.
And for those watching at home, stay tuned for this next episode. And until next time, stay stretched. Bye.
Rain Kane.
Don't forget to give us a like and follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel to see more episodes of our podcast.